What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very interesting knife. I haven't seen a review on this yet on the YouTubes, so I'm excited to share this with you. This is the new OTF from Medford Knife and Tool. I believe it's called the Merc 1. You probably have seen reviews of this knife. However, most of them have been, that I've seen anyway, have been proof strikes. So this knife, I don't know how many of these production ones are out in the world. This one, see how it's all smooth? So the proof strikes, you know, the ones that they basically set out to make sure that they were going to work, have like a honeycomb engraved on them, or, you know, milled on them. I picked this up at Blade Show, and he brought a few of the production models to Blade Show, and so I picked them up. I was actually talking to Greg, and he showed me his out of his pocket, and he's like, "Here, try this." And I was like, "Oh, dang, that's pretty sick." So I picked it up. It is different. It is different than your normal OTF. Let me fire this thing. There is something about the way the blade deploys that is different. For those of you that are not familiar with OTFs, they are typically, like this particular style anyway, the dual action, has got a spring that you load with the switch. So see, I'm loading a spring, and then when it fires the blade backwards. And then when you load the spring forward, then it fires the blade forward. But it sounds different and it feels different than your typical OTF. We'll get into blades and specs and stuff here in a minute, but let me grab this other one. So this is kind of the standard in the knife industry, I would say, for OTF stuff. This is a Microtech. Now this is a UTX 85. I have a UTX as well, but this one fits in the frame easier, so we're gonna use it. This is a UTX 85. And this is pretty awesome. This is the thing. Like when I decided I wanted to get my first OTF, I was going to get myself a Microtech because that's what you get, because they're cool and they're kind of the standard. And yeah, that's it. Now, this action is completely different on the inside, the way it works, but it does basically the same thing. You pull the spring back and you load it and it fires backwards, and you pull the spring forward, you load it and it fires forward. I don't know, I'm not technically informed on what goes on inside these things that well. Actually, I'm more so on this one because I saw him take it apart on the internets. But I will say that the action is different. As good as this is, there is a fair amount of blade play, and there's actually a fair amount of end play here. See that? And because of the way, up until this point, because of the way these knives are made and what they have to do to work, there's always been a little bit of that, right? It's just kind of the way it is. They've just always kind of been a little loose. Now we know that there's a couple of brands that are real expensive that have gotten rid of that, but it's just kind of part of the deal. So let's set that aside and come back to this here. Medford. So let's talk overall design. I love the double-edged blade. I love the fullers in the blade itself. I love the milling in the edge of the blade, or in the center of the blade. I think it's really cool. I love the engraved logo, the way he does that. The switch is pretty cool. Some folks, I think, I've heard people complain about the switch, but I actually really like it. What I will say is that the action is stiffer than the Microtech, but we'll get to why I love it in a minute. I like the overall simple aesthetics of it. I like the milling line around the outside. I think that is really, really cool. We've got a glass breaker in the end of the blade over here. Something like that right there, but it's actually one of Medford's kind of 6-shooter sort of looking deals that they put on a lot of their knives. And then the titanium pocket clip. This is an interesting pocket clip because it has these two different depths in it, which is really neat actually. The main hook here, but this is really nice because the way it hooks in your pants, I just like this. I like this double deal. See where it's got like one that's not as deep as the other one? I really like that a lot. I don't know if that was, I'm sure there's a design point to that. It's not just aesthetic. I'm sure it's functional because it is when you put it in your pants pocket. It just makes it easier to get in and out actually. I love this shape right here. I love the fact that it's not just a box, but it's also, you know, one of the things with OTFs is because of the way the mechanism works, it's hard to not make them boxy, but so it is kind of boxy, but it's also got a little bit of shape to it. All right, so let's discuss action. So the thing about the firing action on this is it does not feel like a spring. When he handed me his knife at Blade Show, the very first thing I thought was, it feels hydraulic. I can't explain that exactly. It just feels hydraulic. It feels like a piston more than it feels like a spring. It's very, very interesting. And then when we're talking about end blade play, there's none. This blade is super locked up, okay, compared to this Microtech, okay, which I don't think about this in daily use. You don't think about it. It's not a knock on Microtech. It's just their design allows for a little bit of that. Where this, whatever he's done in here, which if you watch his video about how to take it apart, is more serviceable even. There isn't, I mean, I guess you could say there's a little, because you can't totally get rid of it. And then side to side, there's a little bit, but way less. And this way, you know, like this way, there's a little bit, but I mean, it's an OTF, so it's gonna have a little. Because you don't want the tolerances so tight that the thing doesn't work, right? So it's gotta work. The action is so good, dude. It's so good. You know what I didn't do? I'm curious to know how much it weighs. All right. 4.1 ounces. I wonder, let me grab my Microtech UTX because this is, and yeah, this is the donut one from Blade HQ. So the UTX is actually, you know, kind of more the blade size and more the comparable model, even though the blade is actually a little bit longer on the Medford. This knife's going to be lighter, I'm fairly certain. 3.3 ounces, 4.1. So it is a chonker of a knife for sure. So there you go. The Medford, I think it's called the Merc 1 OTF, the production model. Let me know what you think of it. I think it's super sick. Now I'm going to tell you, when you go to the Medford website and you find out how much these things cost, you might have a heart attack. But let me tell you, they're amazing. I love Medfords. I think they're amazing. I have another one. I have, what do I have? This here. This is the Smooth Criminal button flipper, and I think it's great. It's a fantastic knife. This is my first one. I got this in Nashville, I think. And I was really sold on the brand. I love how chunky and hardcore feeling they are. And then you take this, and this is even more of a usable knife, even though it's a double-edged blade. This is more of a usable knife, cutting geometry. Everything's really good. I really like it. Anyway, there you go. There is the Medford OTF. Thanks for hanging out, and I hope you enjoy your day. Definitely subscribe to the channel, and we will talk to you in our next video.